Good morning everybody. So this is a little bit of video that I recorded at the aquarium at school some time ago when I was collecting the stones to put into the aquarium. I found an octopus and called him Paul, based on the fact that most octopus I know are called Paul, and you can see him here in the aquarium. I spotted him in the little hole here in the rock, so I decided to feed everybody with some bits of shrimp. You can see that one doesn't seem to like it very much, but when that bit of shrimp went in, it was quite whole and intact, and when he just decided to spit it back out again, it was in quite a different state altogether. It was a little bit munched up, and obviously he's taking a few bites, because octopus, a few facts about them: they have 8 legs or 8 arms covered in suckers, and these suckers also have taste receptor cells. So what he's done when he's picked up the piece of shrimp, he's also had a bit of a taste of it. So obviously if he brought it into where his mouth is, there's a bit more. He's coming out, he's touching, and he's just wrapping his tentacle around this bit of shrimp a bit later on there. And you see he manages to get hold of one bit of shrimp, and also at the same time a second bit of shrimp as well. So he obviously likes the taste of it, otherwise he wouldn't bother bringing it into his mouth. His mouth, which is hidden away down there under his arms, is actually a little beak, like a parrot's beak. So what he's doing now is munching away, and he's definitely eating. So he spits out one piece, and that piece is broken up because he's taken a good few bites. Here he's munching away. You can see quite a lot of movement there. So he's definitely eating, he's feeding, and I know he's doing quite well, because when I put him into the aquarium, he was a lot smaller than he is now. In a moment, once he's finished moving and munching away on this and he's full, he's gonna rather a messy eater. So he's come out his cave, and he actually physically, you ready for it? Spits the last bit of shrimp out quite violently, but there's a lot less shrimp there left over than there was at the start. Later on, these bits of shrimp found themselves under the rock, and there's actually a sea anemone in between the two rocks that has just caught that bit of shrimp on his tentacles, and the sea anemone has eaten one of the bits of shrimp there in behind the rocks. Now he switched a little bit later on, because I recorded him for a good few hours to see what he was doing, and these are like the highlights. He's having a feel around, looking where some of this food, and there's a little bit of shrimp left that he's picked up there, and it's gone back into where his beak or his mouth is. And I did start noticing that there's quite a few like shells here that have been building up in this corner, because octopus, what they do is they eat crustaceans, they eat mussels, and if I don't keep him very, very well fed, he'll be eating some of these mussels and stuff that we have in the aquarium in the live rock, and he's been spitting out the bits of these bits of shell and stuff once he's opened up and eaten the insides. So here we switched to a bit of a close-up, so you can see the structure of his eye. In the background now you can hear me working away, because I was there cleaning and doing things. So you can see how it's changing colour. Now the colour changes for an octopus. One of the things that they do is camouflage. So here he's changed this to colour to like a mottly colour to blend in with the rock. And there's also a number of studies about how an octopus's ability to change colour is not actually anything to do with his eyes. The skin seems to be able to detect the colours around it and automatically mimic the environment. But also the colours are a sign of emotion. An octopus that's scared will often go very white coloured. Here he's sticking his eyes out a bit further and keeping an eye on me over the top of the rock. You can see he's narrowed his pupil of his eye. The pupil of an octopus, his eye, is horizontal and straight. It's almost a straight line, and you can see he's peeking up with his eyes over the top of the rock, and he's actually keeping an eye there on what I was doing. You can see as he breathes, okay, he's got inside his head behind his eyes, he has a space like a sac inside his head. I would say where his head and brain is, but an octopus's brain, it's not central like our central nervous system. So it's not a central brain. The brain actually reaches out all through the body into his legs. There he's having a bit of feeling about again underneath him, maybe picking some of the food up that he's left behind. And you can see how when they breathe, what happens is he opens up one hole in the side of his sac to inflate the head with water, and then right next to his eye there, just below it, is a siphon which you can see pumping away. Okay, this is because he's preparing himself to do something, and he's sucking air into the head sac, and then it's squirting it out through this siphon, which is, it's like can change direction, and they can use it as a jet propulsion system. So basing on where he's squirting the water using that siphon, he can actually jet propel himself through the water. So he's got, here we go, turning himself around. This is a very typical position that you'll find an octopus in when they're laying eggs in the cave, upside down. Okay, but this is because he's preparing himself to go out. See his pupil of his eyes opening up there. This is looking at something else. So it's opening up nice and wide. And a little bit later on here he's started to creep out his cave. This is when I was off doing other things elsewhere. So he's looked up over the top of the rock, climbed up onto the top of it, and here you've got a nice view of his head sac, and you can see how it inflates and deflates as he breathes, as he fills it with water and squirts the water out to breathe. So octopus, they breathe using their head. All of the arms and stuff work on quite an intricate system of hydraulics. So it's like it's a fluid that he pumps up and down his arms to make his arms move, similar to the hydraulics that diggers and cranes use. And there you can see his suckers. Got a lovely view of all the suckers on his arm. Each of these suckers can be controlled individually, and he also have taste buds. So when he touches things with his sucker, he's also tasting. So this is when I got back a little bit later on, and now you'll see, you can see through my reflection, unfortunately, he's there in between the rocks moving around. He's gone to pick up that last bit of food that was left over, and here he was turning a lovely shade of luminescent green as he was there in this little crack between the two rocks. And as always, you can see the eyes are the giveaway for an octopus, because they don't change the colour of their eye. You can always see that pupil, horizontal pupil, so this is what always gives them away, even though their camouflage is excellent. Right now he looks just like another bit of rock in there between the two larger bits of rock, and as he moves across you can see that lovely luminescent colour, and now he's turned white. This is very probably because he's seen me. Very intelligent animals, octopus, the most intelligent non-vertebrate.
What are you up to, Paul?
And off he's going, probably to get away from me. So we say bye-bye to Paul.